Hello everybody, thank you for coming to my presentation. My name is Locky, and the title of my presentation is Creativity and Systemic Functional Linguistics, Applying Pattern-Forming Creativity Using Creativity in Registerial Framework. This presentation is a sequel to the one I did in the same conference back in 2019, at a time when COVID was not yet a thing, and pre-recorded presentation was considered an innovation. Well, now it's just a norm. So anyway, if you would like to watch that, just click on the link above and you can watch that on YouTube. In this talk, I will start with describing what creativity is, and then I will explain a framework that I've developed called Creativity in Registerial Framework. After that, we will look at the data that I'll be using for this presentation for demonstration. Using that data, I will analyze it and look at how different representations of results can be done. And finally, I will end this talk with a conclusion. So what is creativity in applied linguistics versus its meaning in systemic functional linguistics? But in applied linguistics, creativity is generally defined as the interplay between forming and reforming of patterns as defined by Carter in any text or any medium. Example would be, say, repetitions of lexical items in co-constructed conversation, neologism, word blend, metaphor, various forms of figure of speech, and wordplay. So in terms of general classification, we have verbal creativity, obviously that points to spoken, and then other term like linguistic creativity, looking at spoken and written. Obviously they are going to be language related. And finally, multimodal creativity, which is a combination of various modes, which includes also body language, gaze, and if it's in video, we'll also include camera angles. General research approach of creativity usually involves corpus of text. So what about creativity in systemic functional linguistics? Well, according to my research, systemic functional linguistics actually has not explicitly talked about creativity, but it is very similar to the process of cynogenesis and is also related to intertextuality. So in SFL term, when instantiated at the context of situation, creativity has undergone changes brought about by phylogenesis, ontogenesis, and logogenesis to reach the ontogenetic stage where meanings can be created, reinforced, or altered by a language user's choice to reach its target audience. Lamke identifies intertextuality as the dependence of one text upon others. And because the sequence of text production is important, it is essential to understand the semiotic history, which is the often hidden dialogue it is engaging in with another text or texts, or even with the whole discursive tradition. If you would like to learn more about that, you can also read Halliday 1976, Anti-Language. In this section, I'll talk about how I constructed the Creativity in Registerial Framework, CIRCF. Well, so a few years ago, I was working on my PhD thesis, and I came across Carter's creativity matrix. He actually looked at the Kenko corpus, and based on the Kenko corpus, he classified or he categorized these data of everyday spoken English into their several categories. So context type and interaction type, as you can see across, and then from top to bottom, you can see he also classified it into transactional, professional, socializing, and intimate. At that time, I happened to have also read Poynton 1985, The Three Continuum of Tenor. And in this theory, she has power, contact, and in fact affective involvement in their continuum form. So powers from equal to unequal, contact frequent to occasional, affective involvement high to low. And from here, I saw that actually I can fit that into the Carter's creativity matrix. And if you look across from context type to interaction type, there is actually an increasing level of equality. And then if you look down from transactional to intimate, there is an increasing level of intimacy. And lastly, if I look diagonally across the table, there is an increasing level of contact between the participants. Therefore, if we look at the three red arrows, they kind of look like axes of a three-dimensional cube in some ways. And finally, I also came across my PhD supervisor, Christian Mathiessen's 2015 Registerial Cryptography. In his theory, this Registerial Cryptography consists of 8 permeable fields of activity, or if you like, socio-semiotic processes within the context. If you look at the center circle, you have the expanding, reporting, recreating, sharing, doing, enabling, recommending, and exploring of different categories of field. And then you can subdivide it to others, such as in recreating, you have narrating and dramatizing. In sharing, you have sharing experiences and sharing values, so on and so forth. From the three theories, I decided that I could actually combine them together, and I did. So I created the Creativity in Register Cube framework, CIRCF. If you look at the axes, contact power affective involvement comes from Poynton. The colorful scheme and annotation underneath are from Mathiessen's Registerial Cryptography. The underlying structure comes from Carter's creativity matrix. And all that will give me the client of creativity, which I will be using for analysis in the next section. Moving on to data, for demonstration purpose, I use House M.D, which is an American television medical drama. But in fact, you can actually use real-life data as well if you have one. So just a quick overview of what House M.D is. It's a Fox network television program from 2004 to 2012, and 177 episodes in 8 seasons, 3 Guinness World Records. What I collected was about 1 million words from fan script, and then compiled them into a House M.D corpus, and then performed computational assisted extraction method of the pattern forming creativity from a selection of episodes, about 1 every 3 evenly distributed ones. My focus would be on congrams because it will allow me to look for patterns in and permutations of pairing words, basically. From the congrams, I then go back to the video and look at the corresponding semiotic values, multimodal values, and then I will tabulate the results using CIRCF. So what exactly is pattern forming creativity? According to Carter and Tennant, it is generally the repetition of lexical items happened in a co-constructed conversation. So here is an example from Season 1, Episode 1 of House M.D. Let's take a look at it.
Just a few weeks. If it's vascular, that'll probably be fastest of all. Maybe a week.
We're gonna stop all treatment.
I still think it's a tumor. I think we should go back to the radiation.
She didn't respond to the radiation.
Maybe we didn't see the effect until after we started steroids.
No, it's not a tumor. The steroids did something. I just don't know what.
So we're just gonna do nothing? We're just gonna watch her die?
Yeah. We're gonna watch her die. Specifically, we're gonna watch how fast she's dying. You just told us. Each diagnosis has its own time frame. When we see how fast it's killing her, we'll know what it is.
And by then, maybe there's nothing we can do about it.
There's gotta be something we can do. Something better than watching her die.
Well, I got nothing. How about you?
I hope you enjoyed the scene. And here it's the transcript of that scene, part of that scene. In red, those are the words used by Foreman, and in yellow highlighted, those are the words that House repeated using Foreman's original wording and also a modification of his words. That we will consider as pattern forming creativity. Moving on to analysis and representations of results. Now, Table 3 are basically the counts of pattern forming creativity from the 67 episodes. In the first row, it's basically the grid number 1 to 12 that I have assigned to the Carter's creativity matrix. And in the first column, you see socio-semiotic processes from Matthiessen. By tabulating the results, we get account for each CIRCF grid number. We also get account for each socio-semiotic process and the percentages for the occurrences in the 67 episodes of House M.D. From this table, we can see that exploring, expounding, and sharing are the top 3 socio-semiotic processes in the sample data. Now, if we take those 12 CIRCF grid numbers and their total counts and transpose them, place them back into the creativity matrix by Carter, we will get something like this. Now, the percentages this time are by the 1 to 12 CIRCF grid numbers. So it's slightly different from the ones that you previously saw. So once we get these numbers and their respective percentages or count calculated, tabulated, we can actually use a 3D or if you like 4D model to map these data into a graphical representation format. And this is exactly what it will look like. If you look at the axes are still contact, affective involvement, power, or if you like, equality. And then the client of creativity is now sort of highlighted, or if you like, dotted as a plane. The numbers of the spheres that you see are actually the CIRCF numbers, and their respective percentages are represented by the radius of that sphere. So if you like, it's kind of like metaphorically a solar system where you have different planets of different sizes. From here, you can see that where the largest spheres or planets are, they happen to be very close to high equality, low power, and high contact, as well as high affective involvement. Borrowing terms from physics, we can say that planet 6, 9, 12 has the strongest gravity and therefore bends the space-time much more than the rest of the planets. Now, apart from a 4D graphical representation, we can also have very simple 2D charts. And for this one, for example, we have the counts of DDXing, which stands for differential diagnosis, and the pattern-forming creativity that happen by their locations. So if you look at the chart here, we can see that at the moments of pattern-forming creativity happening during DDXing, the location that most frequently happen would be House's conference room. If we also consider other conversation types, such as chat, private chat, doctor-patient talk, negotiations, we can then come up with this colorful table-ish diagram, which represents the finding with respect to locations, field, and participants, who are the tenor. By the way, the colors are actually color-coded according to Mathiessen's Registerial Cryptography, so that we can actually see these numbers or percentages much more quicker. In a similar manner, we can also use the sunburst chart to graphically represent our data. In the center circle, we can see the conversation type. In the next circle, we can see the location. And in the outer circle, we can see who are the participants in this pattern-forming creativity, with the first name as the creator and the second name after the hyphen as the target. So if we go back to our last video example, House is the pattern-forming creativity's creator, whereas Foreman is the target. Using the same results from the analysis, we can actually do a lot of different tabulations or creating different charts and diagrams. For example, here I am tabulating the socio-semiotic processes against the creator-target numbers. And so here you can see that according to numbers, House likes to use pattern-forming creativity on his team, followed by his next favorite, Wilson, his dear friend, followed by Cuddy, who happens to be his boss, and later on in the show, his girlfriend. We can also compare the use of creativity between House and the supporting characters. Here I show the table 7 first because, well, Wilson and Cuddy are House's best friend, and if you like lovers. So as the main supporting characters, they obviously had the highest number of occurrences of pattern-forming creativity as House's target. So within the sample, we can see that both of them have around 51 and 50 counts. But if we calculate the overall appearances in the entire series, then we can actually see a difference between who is more of a target for House. And then so on. We can look at table 6 as well. Then these are his team members. So doing the same mathematics, we can actually get an average occurrences in data as House targets per appearance. That number in the first column is only in 67 episodes. So if we times 3, then we can roughly get an improved estimated population or occurrences. But definitely not the exact number, unless we go into every single episode to get the exact number. Conclusion. So in this presentation, I hope I have demonstrated the use of CIRCF to analyze pattern-forming creativity in a quantitative way with respect to register variables such as field as their primary or subtypes of socio-semiotic processes and locations, tenor through contact power, affective involvement, and mode, which is spoken or if you like written in a scripted spoken telecinematic way. I also hope that I have reviewed how the television characters used pattern-forming creativity to interact with each other and in turn map out the overall patterns of creative language use in this TV series. I also hope that I have reviewed enough an association between pattern-forming creativity and a high equality of power between the characters. Finally, I've also contributed to the research of pop culture, which is still a fairly rare subject of research. Right, for future work, we can compare the use of pattern-forming creativity between supporting characters. We can look at the change in power between characters at different stages of their life in the drama. We can also apply CIRCF to various different data, meaning like real-life data. If possible, then it will be good to have like a triangulation with qualitative analysis methods, such as my other frameworks called, in short form, AFCMT, and Digital Creativity Multimodal Analysis, DCMA. I have put down some references there. And finally, it will also be very nice to compare with results in with real-life data. So, for example, like doctor-doctor conversation and doctor-patient talk. Well, and thank you. That's the end of my presentation. This presentation is actually a summary video of my paper, which is published recently in the Journal of Linguistics and the Human Sciences. Here are the rest of the references. Hope you like this presentation. And if you have any questions, please feel free to ask, and also you can send me your questions through ResearchGate mailbox, and as you can see from here. Thank you very much.